Hey everyone, and welcome to the Explainer. Okay, so we have a really fantastic breakdown lined up for you today. We're going to completely unpack how to construct a fully functional online marketplace literally from the ground up using Python and the incredibly powerful Django framework. We'll be looking at a comprehensive project called Puddle. It's a marketplace where users can buy, sell, and even message each other about different items. Honestly, it's the absolute perfect project to help you understand how complex web applications are actually put together behind the scenes. Because, building a web app like this, it's exactly like building a house. So let's take a look at the blueprint. Here is our agenda for the build. First up, the Django environment setup. 2, routing views and templates. 3, structuring database models. 4, authentication and dashboards. And finally, number 5, building the messaging system. All right, let's jump into section 1, the Django environment setup, laying the foundation. Okay, so before we start pouring any actual code for Puddle, we have to prep the ground, right? And we do this in 3 critical little command line steps. First, we use the virtual environment command. This essentially isolates our workspace, creating this safe little bubble on your computer just for this specific project, so your different software versions don't completely clash later on. Step 2, we use pip to install Django straight into that bubble. And then step 3, this is the magic command, Django admin start project Puddle. Boom. That generates your entire initial folder structure. Now, inside that folder structure, you'll see a few core files. Think of manage.py as your site manager. You're going to use it all the time to run the local server or update your database. Then you've got settings.py. This is basically the master blueprint of the entire project. It holds all your configurations, your secret keys, and lists all the different apps you're going to build. And finally, urls.py. This is your master table of contents. So whenever someone types a web address into your site, this file is the thing that figures out exactly where to send them. Moving right along to section 2, routing views and templates, framing the rooms. So in Django, a whole project is actually made up of multiple smaller things called apps. Now, don't let that terminology completely throw you off. A Django app is really just a dedicated folder used to organize your code for one specific feature. For Puddle, we start by creating a core app. This acts as the main entry points, handling the front page, the contact page, things like that. By isolating features into their own folders, Django keeps you totally sane as your marketplace starts to scale up. Just whatever you do, do not forget to register that app inside your settings.py file, or Django literally won't even know it exists. Okay, this right here, this is the absolute heartbeat of Django, the URL view template flow. Let's say a user visits your homepage. The URL file catches that web request. It then tosses it over to a view, which actually is basically just a Python function. That view decides, okay, what exact data do I need to grab from the database right now? And finally, the view hands that data off to a template. The template is just an HTML file, in our case, enhanced beautifully with Tailwind CSS, and it renders the final, polished page the user actually sees on their screen. Now, a super crucial point in creating templates is avoiding repetitive code. Nobody wants to write the same thing twice. Django uses a central template file for this, usually called base.html. This file holds your overarching layout, the main navigation menu at the top, the footer at the bottom, all your Tailwind CSS imports. By using what Django calls block content tags, every other page you make, like the home page or contact page, simply extends this base file and just fills in the middle section. It is the ultimate implementation of the don't repeat yourself principle. You are going to absolutely love how much time this saves you. All right, section 3, structuring database models, the structural supports. Obviously, a marketplace needs items to sell, right? In Django, we define our database tables using Python classes, and we call these models. We're just mapping the data we want to Django's built-in types. So an item's name, that's a char field with a maximum character length. The description is going to be a much larger text field. The price maps to a float field, and wonderfully, Django has a dedicated image field specifically for uploading pictures. Though, quick side note, you do have to install an extra Python library with the incredibly cozy name Pillow to actually make that image upload work. Here's the catch, though. Once you write those models in Python, your database still has no idea they exist. We have to bridge that gap using 2 very specific terminal commands. Make migrations is step 1. It looks at your Python code and basically drafts a blueprint of the changes you want to make to the database. Then you run migrate. This command executes that drafted blueprint, modifying the actual SQL database tables under the hood. You are going to run these 2 commands constantly as your app evolves. And, usually holding your breath, just hoping you didn't break the database. But here is one of the absolute superpowers of Django. Out of the box, the second you migrate, Django gives you a fully functional, highly secure admin interface. Seriously, by running one simple command to create a super user, you can log right into a pre-built backend. From there, you can instantly start adding categories, uploading items, and populating your Puddle store. You completely bypass hours of tedious front-end building just to get data into your system. It is a massive, massive win for developers. Section 4, Authentication and Dashboards, Installing Security. Okay, so we've got a database filled with items, but how do regular users securely sign up, log in, and manage their own storefronts? Writing secure login systems from scratch is incredibly difficult and, honestly, quite dangerous if you mess it up. Thankfully, Django handles all the heavy lifting here. It gives us built-in tools like the user creation form and the authentication form. These automatically handle the super complex stuff like password hashing and validation right out of the box. And if you want to secure a specific page, let's say the user's private inventory dashboard, you just stick a simple @login_required decorator right above your view in the code. Bam! It immediately locks down that URL so only authenticated users can see it. So let's look at how users actually add items to their dashboard. In web development, we really have to distinguish between two different states here. Think of a GET request like a window shopper. They are just looking at the blank new item form on the screen. But the moment they fill it out, attach a photo, and hit submit, the browser fires off a POST request, handing over all that data. Our Python view has a specific logic block that listens only for this POST request, grabs the data, and preps it for the database. And right here is where we use a brilliant little trick. When saving that user-submitted item, first, we check if the form is valid. But if we save it immediately, the whole database crashes. Why? Because the item has no owner yet. The form itself didn't ask the user who they are. So step 2, we use commit equals false. This basically hits pause on writing to the database, keeping the item suspended in memory. Then, in step 3, we manually attach the currently logged in user to the item's created_by field. And finally, step 4, we officially save it. It's such a clever workflow. All right, our final stop, section 5, building the messaging system, the intercom. To actually make a user-to-user chat system work, we need a dual model structure. First, we need a conversation model. Think of this as the overall chat room. It links to the specific item they're talking about, and it uses a many-to-many field for its members, because obviously a chat requires multiple users. Then, underneath that, we have the conversation message model. This represents the individual text bubbles. It links back up to that parent conversation, holds the actual text content, and notes exactly which user sent it. When a buyer clicks Contact Seller on an item, the logic happening under the hood is super elegant. We really don't want to spin up a brand new chat room every single time they click the button, right? That would be a mess. So the view first asks the database, hey, is there already a conversation about this exact item between these two exact users? If yes, it just seamlessly redirects them into their existing chat history. If not, only then does it create a brand new conversation record and add both users to it. Okay, actually, wait. I need to highlight a huge, critical warning from the source material regarding user-uploaded media, like those item photos. During local development, we add a tiny little hack snippet to our urls.py file to force Django to serve these images so we can see them. But the instructor is very explicit here. In a live production environment, you never ever let Django handle media files. Django is a powerhouse built to compute logic. It is not built to serve heavy image files. If you do that, it will slow your live site to a complete crawl. Instead, you're going to want to use a dedicated cloud bucket like Amazon S3 to handle images for speed and security. And there you have it. From pouring the virtual environment foundation to framing the rooms by routing our views, putting up the structural supports of the database, installing top-notch security on the dashboards, all the way down to wiring up the intercom for messaging, we have completely unpacked the blueprint for the Puddle Django marketplace. It is a remarkably robust house we've built here today. The only real question left for you is, armed with this blueprint, what custom features are you going to build next? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep building, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.